Hi there, I'm Tony Grant, and this is Learn English with Tony, a weekly podcast to improve your listening skills and grow your English vocabulary. Join me for a new episode every Friday, where I'll give a short talk on a theme and explore a few interesting words and phrases for you. How many steps do you think you walk on an average day? Go on, have a guess. 1,000? 5,000? 10,000? Unless you've actually spent some time thinking about this and focusing on it in everyday life, you probably don't have much of a real sense of how far you're walking each day or how many steps you're doing. Most of us overestimate or go too high with our guess. Of course, if you have an active job, then you're probably moving a lot and getting plenty of exercise each day. But if your job is more sedentary, then be prepared for some bad news. You're probably not moving nearly as much as you think you are. Now, that word sedentary describes a job or a lifestyle that involves sitting down for long periods. And for many of us nowadays, working on a computer or at a desk, that's exactly how we live, a sedentary life. Sometime last year, I started to get interested in step counting. At first, I spent a month or so monitoring my daily step count with an app on my phone to get an accurate picture of how much I was walking each day. I'd always assumed I was moving plenty, as I was going to the mountains for a big trip several weekends a month, either climbing, hiking, or trail running. But what I found was that during the week with my sedentary job, my step count dropped to ridiculously low levels. Sometimes I didn't even walk 1,000 steps in a day, and on the worst days it could even be just a few hundred. Over a period of years, this inconsistent lifestyle had started causing me problems. My body was getting stiff and I was getting more injuries. Something had to change. So I decided that daily step count was the area where I could make the most difference. Now, unless you've been living under a rock in recent years, you've probably heard of the 10,000 steps per day challenge. 10,000 has become a sort of magic number in recent years, with loads of apps and devices on the market to help us reach the goal. But there's a lot of discussion about whether 10,000 is a real science-based number or just a popular myth. The truth is quite a funny story, actually. Back in 1965, a Japanese corporation called Yamasa Toke released a new device called a pedometer, or step counter. They named it the Manpoke, which is Japanese for 10,000 step counter. They chose the number 10,000 as a catchy way to market the product, and it became hugely popular. So the original 10,000 steps per day idea didn't come from scientific studies, but from a Japanese marketing campaign. Isn't that hilarious? As a side note, in Japan they count large numbers in multiples of 10,000. Ichiman, or 1 man, is 10,000. They don't say 100,000, they say juman, 10 man. It's interesting the way different cultures count. It's similar to the way India uses 1 lakh instead of 100,000. Now, I wonder if any of our Indian listeners have ever walked 1 lakh steps in one day. Anyway, back to the topic. Nowadays, there have actually been studies carried out on this, and it seems many people now say that you don't really have to walk 10,000 steps per day. You can improve your health and live longer by walking around half of that. That's probably good news to a lot of people. But personally, I decided to go with 10,000 as my daily target, and I'll tell you why. You see, it doesn't really matter to me whether 10,000 steps is a scientifically valid goal or not. What counts for me is that it's a big number and requires an active commitment to achieve. At around 5 miles or 8 kilometers, the average person has to walk at a decent pace for around an hour and a half to achieve that distance. That's something you're very unlikely to do accidentally, just by moving between your living room, kitchen, and bathroom during the day. You've got to make a conscious effort to get up and walk if you want to average 10,000 steps per day. And if you ask me, that's a good habit to develop in these sedentary times. I'm now 9 months into my challenge, and so far I've stuck with it. So, to finish this episode, I have a challenge for you. Write and tell me about your own lifestyle. Are you active or sedentary? Do you think you could stick to the 10,000 a day challenge? Right, gotta go. It's almost bedtime and I've only done 5,000 steps. I'd better get out there or I'll mess up my average. Thank you for listening to Learn English with Tony. If there's a topic you'd like me to talk about in a future episode, just send an email to learnenglish.mobile@britishcouncil.org, and remember, stay safe everyone.